Subwave network detected. Hello, humanoids of all classes, colours, and creeds, and welcome back to another Doctor Who review.
Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities, and welcome back to another Doctor Who review. And today's Doctor Who review is none other than Destiny of the Daleks. So, what is Destiny of the Daleks about? Well, the Doctor and Romanna land on the planet Skaro, where Romanna decides to have a bit of a regeneration. She has I think it's about 2 or 3. I could be wrong. Someone correct me in the comment section. But she has a couple of regenerations, and then we get Romanna 2. Beautiful Lala Ward. And essentially, the whole story revolves around the Doctor and Romanna 2 finding themselves in a war between the Movellans and the Daleks. Now, who are the Movellans? You may be asking. Well, the Movellans are kind of computers. They come across to the Doctor and Romanna at first as kind of these enforcers who have landed on Skaro to pretty much save a bunch of the refugees from what's happening. However, they have much, much more insidious plans with the Daleks. First of all, they hope to find Davros and stop him before the Daleks can use him as a weapon, because the biggest problem at the moment is the Movellans and the Dalek computers. Both species are fighting one another in a checkmate problem. The Doctor realizes this after he tries to pretty much do a rock, paper, scissors with them. He realizes when he rock, paper, scissors with them, because he is impractical to them, he will always end up beating them. However, because of the fact that the Movellans are very similar, this is the problem with them and their battle computer with the Daleks. However, as far as the Doctor's concerned, Davros should be dead. He's ancient, he's dust. He shouldn't still be around and alive. However, the best thing about evil in a universe of madness is that evil never dies. So the Doctor takes a trip down into what used to be the old Khalid city with the help of the Movellans, and soon he discovers the fact that the Daleks have been right this whole time Davros lives. He somehow managed to sustain himself with his chair after what was supposed to have been his extermination in Genesis of the Daleks. However, when our wiry old ancient being of Davros wakes up, he finds himself enraged when he realizes the Daleks are no closer to securing the victory over the universe than they did before. The mad tyrant wakes up and finds himself face to face with the Doctor, who is threatening to blow him up in his very chair and end his life once and for all. However, during the bluff, Davros soon realizes that the Doctor has no power over him, and of course uses the Daleks against him. The Doctor managed to luckily escape, and also manages to get back to the Movellans. However, it turns out the Movellans have locked Romanna inside of a giant casing to get him to cooperate and help them win the war against the Daleks. The Doctor ends up giving in halfway through this story due to the fact that he doesn't want the Daleks to win. However, the Doctor still doesn't fully agree with the Movellans and believes that this war is pointless and that all species should find some way of coexisting. The Doctor manages to defeat the Daleks and imprison Davros, in which he ends up being sent off on a space crater to essentially face judgment under the rule of the Galactic Senate. Not only for his mass genocide and a lot of his other crimes in experimentation, but Davros will be facing trial for his life. So, Destiny of the Daleks. What did I think of this story? I love the fact that we get to go back to Skaro. I love that Romanna can shapeshift her face into so many different things. And I love that she's really trying to get her footing in this story as this brand new and immersive character. Romanna 2 and Romanna 1 are two by far very separate performances. I mean, Mary Tam and Lala Ward absolutely blow it out of the water, but we can definitely see where Mary Tam and uh, Lala Ward's performances kind of go astray. It's not necessarily that Lala Ward is trying to change the entire character, but I definitely feel like there's a couple of her own quirks in there. And I feel that that's what makes both of these actresses absolutely brilliant in their game. It's just the way that they both embody the character. However, back to the story, the Malevolent and the Daleks I feel like is a very interesting dynamic. In the past we've had stories where the Daleks are taking over a planet and there's an interplanetary war between them and the species they're trying to conquer. But the idea of two battle computers and two robot-like species is really interesting. I mean, the Daleks aren't fully robotic, of course, because they have giant mutants inside of them. However, they do still have that kind of wired up system of the fact that the Daleks are all kind of a hive mind. And I like that the Doctor points this out in this because previous to this story, most people would just watch the Daleks and believe most of them to just kind of be self sustaining hatred looking tanks. But the idea that their technology over the years has advanced and made them have to communicate between one another, I feel like is a great way of looking at them in a strategic light. After all, the Daleks do have to go into battle on multiple planets and multiple fronts, so it's not uncanny to believe that they may have some kind of AI built into their systems. However, I also like the fact of the reintroduction of Davros in this story. Destiny of the Daleks bringing Davros back is a great way of kind of saying, look, the creator never dies, the evil never dies, and the genius behind it never dies. Davros over the years, from this story to kind of Stolen Earth to Magician's Apprentice, has always had a very good lineacy on where he goes and what he does. And I feel like this is no different in this story. He definitely has some control, however, he does take the back burner, meaning he gets to relax from being the wild dictator he was in Genesis of the Daleks. I feel like the fact that Davros is just absolutely annoyed throughout this story about how easily the Daleks are over and out countered really starts to wake him up to the idea of what the Fourth Doctor was telling him in Genesis of the Daleks. The Daleks don't only sometimes struggle to adapt and evolve, but sometimes they are easily fooled by things right in front of their face. And when Davros actually sees this, I think it's a brilliant wake up call to actually saying to him, look, this was your creation, this is what they did. They're the worst creatures in the universe, and look, you can literally stop them by a flight of stairs, which Tom Baker does sort of in this story, and the fact that you can just cover their eye stalk, which is one of their other weaknesses. This is most probably why later on, when we get to the modern era, most of the modern Daleks have this kind of thing where they can stop their vision from being impaired. However, they still have some sort of weaknesses in some of the modern Daleks, but I definitely feel like in the early stages of watching the Daleks, it's brilliant to see all these little weaknesses, to see how they've evolved. Tom Baker and Lala Ward's performance in this is brilliant, and I just love the story in general, and for that reason I give it a solid 9 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next Doctor Who review. Until then, goodbye, stay beautiful, and have an incredible night, you beautiful people.